unstoppable kick-ass confidence. Are you ready?
Welcome to the Raw and Unscripted show with Christopher Rausch, where we help you overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. Now please welcome our host, Christopher Rausch.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome back to another episode of the Raw and Unscripted show with yours truly, your no excuses coach, Christopher Rausch. We're back here every single Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, your place where we help you unfuck your brain, get you unstuck, get you more confident, get you living in an authentic way to be able to rock your life. That's what this is all about. We've been here for 6 years. We're on episode 325. So we've been here for quite some time. And I'm excited about tonight's conversation too, because it's a kind of a trip down memory lane. If you guys have been following me for any length of time, you know that I every once in a while talk about the show called The Unfiltered Experience, which is a podcast that we started back during COVID. I did another one called Rainbows in Real Life during COVID, as well as this Raw and Unscripted show. So I had a lot to say, but this particular show that we did was called The Unfiltered Experience. And the reason why we did that is because I had a co-host and a hand-chosen co-host that actually reached out to me. And through conversations about life, we decided to start a podcast and had a very, very successful run at it, impacted tons and tons of people. And so I thought, you know what? Who could I have on the show tonight that can really speak to some of the things we've been talking about here with men's mental health? We've been talking about transitions in life. We've been talking about seasons of life. We've been talking about, like, how do we let go of who we were in order to become who we're supposed to be, right? And so oftentimes we hang on to who it is that we were, and because it served us, right? And I think about my story, and I told you guys about this. I was a go-getter. I was really focused on success. So I knew what I needed to do in order to be successful with that person, in this situation, in that situation. And prescriptively, it worked very, very well for me until it didn't. Until I started realizing that the external validation, the egoic validation, the monetary success, the things I could buy, everything else wasn't really providing me and providing my soul with the substance that I was looking for, if that makes sense. And so oftentimes we're looking for something that's deeper, but so oftentimes we look so hard that we miss it. And so in tonight's conversation, we're going to talk about a couple of things that are going to help you in your life. We're going to talk about what we need to do in order to strip away the labels, right? So oftentimes we put labels on things, what we need to do to be somebody. And perhaps maybe if we just need to be somebody to ourselves, then the people that we impact, we can even be better bodies. What happens to our identity as we evolve, as we age, as we start to outgrow our stories, right? We talk about stories. We talk, oh, this is who I am. This is what I do. But what would life be like if you didn't describe yourself by the things that you do, and instead maybe who you are and the impact that you want to leave? What does success look like once you've made it, yet something still inside feels unfinished? We're going to talk about breaking free from the ego, right? So oftentimes we're involved in our ego and we don't allow ourselves to really truly and feel and experience the moment because we're so caught up in the results of what it is that we're going to do. How we can define our meaning of success without the ego. So that's something that we're going to be talking about tonight, which is super important. We're going to talk about identity big time, like who we identify ourselves as, and what would it be like if we just no longer identified ourselves by that particular label and we were just experiencing life and the joy. And the last thing we're going to talk about is why letting go is the next level of winning. So I'm excited. You guys know this dude. He's been a dear friend of mine for a number of years. We've met in person. We've hung out. We've impacted plenty of people's lives. Please help me welcome Mr. Scott David Goyette to the Raw and Unscripted show. What's up, Mr. Scott Goyette?
What's up, buddy? I was just trying to, you know what I realized? My StreamYard actually expired. So I was trying to stream this to everybody else, and it wouldn't let me log in because they don't care about me anymore, bro.
Well, you're still making a difference and an impact in life. You're just not doing it necessarily on a podcast anymore, but you're still doing it with your group coaching and your speaking and all the different business adventures that you're involved with.
Yeah. I just, you know what it is? I forgot that, and I think it went up too, because I had a pretty good rate. I had like a teacher rate that was only like $150 a year, and it went up to like $600. And I'm like, and I remember getting that email. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'll just jump on your show. Makes it easier.
There we go. I mean, I still got the Unfiltered Experience. It's there ready and waiting for whenever we want to get back into it. And I'm excited about the conversation tonight because you and I we talk offline quite a bit, and we talk about life. And so oftentimes we sit there and have this great discussion, and we say, what we should have been doing this online to help other people experience this breakthrough and experience these aha moments. And sometimes it's just the simple stuff, right? It's just you and I sharing what it is that we got going on. And ultimately, somehow, authentically, we both kind of say, like, okay, this is how I'm handling it. And if that works for you, then great. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But the thing I want to talk about with you tonight, Scott, and the thing that really made me think about you is the whole conversation of identity, right? You and I are pretty much the same age, and we've gone through a lot of similar experiences, had the egoic validation, the success, the stages and the people and the validation. But talk to us tonight about, what it means to really let go of who we thought we were supposed to be in order to allow ourselves to be who we are now.
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. And we've answered it in probably 10,000 formats in different ways on stages and in other discussions, but
now it's where we are now. So that's the curious thing, is to see how we answer those questions now that we've changed over the last couple of 4 years.
I'll give you a succinct yet roundabout answer. So I was on a boat this weekend, and it was funny because I'm somebody who never gets jealous. I'm always excited for people's success. Like I see somebody who made it. I'm like, that's awesome. I'm like, any best practices, whatever. And is that even a place I want to be? But I'm driving around on a boat this weekend looking at these. I always forget how rich Austin is. You're in California. You see the same type of places. And there's these $50 million houses all around the lake. And I'm driving by and I'm like, who the hell lives in these places? And what did they do to get here?
Mm-hmm.
And then I start thinking to myself, I'm like, what did I do wrong? And that is not a voice that exists in my head, because I just don't care. I've made so many decisions and choices to have freedom to travel around the world, to not be stuck in a place where I'm just driving. I'm living. I'm really living. But I caught myself doing it. And what I realized, and the reason I want to bring this up with identity, is I don't care how much inner work you've done. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how evolved you are. You've got to constantly stay in practice of the work, because I could have gone down a weird dark hole and been like, what am I, a loser? Like, I'm 54 years old. These people have all these amazing homes. I was a smart kid. I probably should have that too. But then I realized I chose exactly what I have. Mm-hmm. And what I would remind people of, and you too, we made choices that got us to this point. The new story, the actual story always starts now. So if there's something that you want different, do something different. And it's that simple. Your identity is what you choose it to be in this present moment, not what your experiences build you up to this present moment to be who you are, but you're not a product of those experiences. And so roundabout way of saying, be grateful, start the new story now. But that's an honest to goodness thing. We're driving and I'm like, holy shit, I'm comparing and contrasting myself to others. I don't do that, but I'm doing it right now. So,
mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know that you have been through countless challenging circumstances. I know that even just in the last 4 years since I've known you, you've experienced a lot of challenging times. What period in your life, Scott, do you look back on and you think about identity and you think about that former version of who Scott was, and you look back and you think, man, that version of Scott was fucking kicking ass, but that version of Scott was unhappy. That version of Scott was empty. Talk to us about that awareness that you went through, because I think a lot of people are going through that right now. They're going through this awareness and they're scared to not be known or be driven by the same things that drove them before. Does that make sense?
100%. It's funny because, some of the things that I'm not going to get into all that stuff over the last few years, but one of the things that I have always expressed as important is creating your own team. And we did that with our good friend, Randy Pierce. Randy Pierce was talking about the importance of building a team. And I talk about that in my coaching practice. So having somebody you can trust, somebody who energizes you, somebody who holds you accountable, and somebody who's a mentor in different parts of existence. So whether it's spirituality, business, relationships, you have to have that team. My team fell apart in the last few years. So when I'm preaching and teaching somebody, something, and telling somebody this is what you need to do to create a foundation for success, and mine falls apart, it really called me out. It really called me out on, well, then who are you? Because without the team, I was like, so I'm just me independent of everything else. And so everything I taught, which I said, life is a team sport. You come to this world and leave this world by yourself, but it's all about connection. Some of my connections just felt very distant. and I felt very alone. And I know there's somebody listening to this right now going, holy shit, that's me. That is the most beautiful experience that you could ever have. And here's why. Because in that aloneness, not loneliness, aloneness, you really take a deep look in the mirror and say, who am I? So there's no fluffy bullshit, no place to hide. You look in the mirror and say, who am I? And at that point, you might say, I wish I did more or whatever. But then you make a decision. What do you do now? So to answer that question, I've had some amazing shifts. And when I was running and doing all the things that everybody else, said should validate me, I was always empty. And we've had a million shows about that. You make a few bucks, you buy a house, you buy a boat, you have a nice car, whatever shit is, you go on a great vacation when you're young and everyone's jealous. It's all bullshit. And I don't mean we shouldn't seek those things, but don't make those things your identity. Make those a place where you know who you are and you're celebrating who you are. And I don't know that enough of us are doing that, if that makes sense.
Yes. And what was the most surprising factor about that awakening for you that upon retrospect you realize was one of the key factors of the success that you've experienced since that moment?
The aloneness is the most beautiful thing that can happen. So the key factor is, so I was listening to I listen to a lot of meditations, but there's one from Ram Dass, and I forget it's an album that they put together before he passed away. But one of the meditations is called I Am Loving Awareness. And think about what that's saying. I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness. So is it I am loving the concept of awareness, or am I just loving awareness? But one of the things he speaks about in that is he's talking about the where was I going with this? I had a beautiful point. What was your question again? I'm doing the thing again that we used to always do. We're just like so fried mentally.
Right. We get into that, but I mean, what was the most surprising factor of that awakening that happened for you? And you look back in retrospect and you realize that surprising factor was one of the keys to your success now. But maybe you didn't realize that at the moment. You said the aloneness, and I would think that because the aloneness, you have an opportunity to think. No, because oftentimes we don't think.
So Ram Dass, that's what it was. Ram Dass was saying, he was talking. I knew there was an important point I was going toward, and then my brain, you know what it is? I think in pictures. So what he was saying was, he started saying all the things he loves. He's saying, I love my wheelchair. I love my pain. I love my aloneness. And he was saying all the things. And at first, like, I wanted to vomit listening to it, because I'm like, it just sounds horrible. But then I just embraced it, and I'm like, contrast is everything that we receive while we're here on this planet. So you've got to fall in love with the contrast, fall in love with the shadow, so you can fall in love with the light. And that's really what you learned with that aloneness. And so I recommend everybody, when you get to the point where you just feel horrible and you're trying to escape, doing the drugs, sex, earn more money, just get busy with something, cut the bullshit, get out of the busyness, and just get very present with yourself. Because once you make that transition, we hear things like enlightenment and, all the different things, whatever the term is, you're going to have an awakening that's a very true awakening. And in that, there will be pain, there will be suffering, there will be frustration, there will be exhaustion, but it's going to be the most beautiful transition of your existence. And it's going to take you to a place that can become a land of magic, because you recognize that you are the magic. And I wish I could. I should have said that more seamlessly, but I'm like, what the hell was I talking to Ram Dass about again?
See, you're
my brain is still the same. No, my brain's still the same. I think in pictures, and I'm looking at 9 different things. I'm like, wait, where's I going with this? Just the ADHD squirrel shit.
Absolutely. But ultimately it comes out making sense. And I think that's the beautiful thing for people who are watching and listening to this, is that what you just said is so important. And so often the thing we run from our thoughts, we run from being alone with ourselves, because it's uncomfortable. And so oftentimes God, source, universe will force us to be in those states of uncomfortableness in order for us to grow. Because when we look back on our life, when we've talked about this, we look back on our life, when have we grown the most? When things were easier, when things were challenging? Of course, when things were challenging. And it's when we stop and realize, okay, what can I learn from this? Like, what can I really grab and what can I hold from this experience that will allow me to look back on this and realize that it was happening for my greater good and not to bring me down. And it wasn't happening to me, but it was happening for me. And I think you said that something that's so perfect is sometimes we go through those transitional phases. And one of the things that is a byproduct of that is how we change, is the relationships that we have in our lives change. Talk to us about that. Talk to us about that awakening, but also the part of being able to let go of the beliefs and the thoughts and the people and the experiences maybe that no longer serve us in this future form of ourself.
I'm going to do 3 things at once because that's what my squirrel brain does. I'm going to say hello to Serena. It's so good to see you. We still have to have our phone call and catch up. Appreciate you. And I saw something that Mandy wrote down that I find interesting, and I want to talk about that and integrate that in your question. She said she feels like she's hanging between 2 dimensions, or felt like she's been hanging between 2 dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
I hear that 24/7 from coaching clients, and that has been kind of the big thing. What I've been seeing, and I'll just share with you, is I'm a big fan of telling everybody to focus on the inner world, and your outer world will be a reflection of that. And so what I've been finding is people are doing all the right things with their inner world, and the outer world has not been a reflection of that. People feel like they're like, where am I? Am I an upside down world? So part of the awakening and part of the surrendering and part of everything that we're talking about and why people feel trapped between dimensions is because you're in a transition from a cocoon state, from your caterpillar chrysalis into butterfly. So the feeling is right on point. So everything that you're feeling is so real. And ignore Chris, ignore me, ignore everybody else. Whatever you're feeling is your reality. Trusting yourself, trusting your intuition is paramount. You know, you can sit here and use us as mirrors to help you crack open what you're feeling and seeing. But at the end of the day, trust you always. So the awakening piece, how do you really just let go and just surrender? It's hard. And there's a pace, and the pace is your own. And so you've got to do that with grace. What I've been finding is my whole life is like next, fast. With great consistency, I've been getting kicked aggressively to slow down. I told you that the other day that I found I had a bladder, kidney, and prostate infection, and I almost died. I told you that, right?
No.
I didn't even tell you that. See, I don't even tell you this.
No, I almost died. Huh?
No, so I'll just give you an example, because I'll be going, and I'm like, everything's okay. So being the little boy grown into a man that I am, when I'm in pain, I just ignore it. Well, a bladder infection doesn't show up the same for a man as it does for a woman. A woman has all these symptoms. My kidneys were hurting, but I just thought it was my lower back from my snowmobile accident like a year or 2 ago. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm not feeling good. I woke up, I went and volunteered at Austin Pets Alive, and we were trying to replace, find the homes for cats that were caught in those floods, that were displaced through those floods. Yeah, so we're trying to help out and do something. I felt really shitty. I come home. Within like 20 minutes, I went from a 98, typical temperature to 103.7, and I'm shaking uncontrollably. I can't talk. My eyes are rolling back in my head. It was crazy. So I somehow get my daughter and wife to get me into the car, and she drives me to the emergency room, and I was going septic. So I had 3 different infections. So they just dosed me like crazy with antibiotics. But the reason I'm sharing that with you, it's another one of those things where in a different place and time, like with Serena, like if I'm in Haiti and that happens to me and I'm just a kid in Haiti, I'm dead right now. Yeah. If I'm in a small town USA and I don't have access to get to medical care, I'm dead right now. There's so many blessings, so many things going on. First and foremost, we always go back, be massively grateful, create your foundation, do the things we're talking about. But the next piece of that too, is just the awareness to slow down. Like, do we need a universal kick to the groin, or can't we just be, humans are experiential learners, and I'm that exponentially. I want to be punched in the face and hit by 6 trains before I get a lesson. And then I want to get hit by one more train. I don't want to, but I keep doing it.
But are we supposed to get better at that? I think I'm getting better at it.
I thought I was, but then here we are again. Like, I mean, how many times have we not talked for like 6 months and I'm flipping snowmobiles or almost dying? I mean, it's like, can I just stop? Seriously. I have a death addiction or near death addiction.
Well, I think it's also in the big scheme of things, it could be a subconscious distraction. Like, why does Scott keep going through these experiences? What is that Scott is secretly distracting himself from, paying attention to? And I say that, Scott, with everybody that's listening, like, what is it that we're ignoring? What is it that we're not paying attention to? What signs are potentially God's source universe kind of giving us a little nudge, and then it's a little push, and then it's a smack, and then it's a catastrophic hit that says, hey, you need to pay attention to these things. Right. I think about it in terms when in my 40s, I got to a point where I just physically crashed and I could not figure out what to do. I'd take energy pills. I would do all the things that normally would give me energy. Nothing was working. I just would go to bed exhausted and wake up tired. And I went to the doctor and they did a bunch of tests and they said, you've crashed your adrenals. And I said, okay, what do I need to do to fix it? And they said, you need to rest. And I'm like, do you know who you're talking to? Like, literally, I said that. Like, do you know who you're talking to? I do this and I do this and I do this and I do this, all as a badge of honor of the things that I do and I provide and the way I can validate my existence. But here I was being told that if you don't do this, then it's going to get worse. And so that's where that awareness kicks in. But that's also where we have to sit there and we have to accept responsibility. Right. And we can't sit there and blame it. Oh, I have to do this because of these people and I have to do this and I have to do this and I have to do this. Talk to us about being able to say no, because I know a lot of people are listening to this and they're challenged with saying no. And I've helped a lot of people recently and probably the last 6 months say no more than ever. And they sit there, oh God, Chris, I can't do that. I'm like, the fuck you can't. I'm like, what would happen if you died tomorrow? Who would do those things? How would they get done? So talk about that. I mean, number one, we got to accept responsibility for where we're at, but give some people some tips on how to be able to constructively put themselves first, as opposed to always putting everybody else first and themselves second.
First and foremost, there's 3 ways that I teach lessons, and I teach them with deep honesty. It's either seed plant, fertilization, or full embodiment. This is one that I'm barely a seed plant as a teacher. I can articulate it. I can tell you what to do, but I'm full of shit and I don't do it myself. So I'm going to be honest with you. So I'm going to speak to me and everybody listening at the same time.
Nice.
Self-love. I mean, it's all over the place behind me. Like, love thyself, do the oxygen first so that you can take care of the person next to you. But one of the reasons I crashed and burned like you, Chris, is because I say yes to everything. And, Serena knows her big comment is yes, 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 yes. And it's adorable and it's cute. And like, we love doing it because it just makes us feel complete in helping others. But there has to be a time you say no. To your point, adrenal shutdown, people having heart attacks, people having cortisol buildup and becoming massively stressed. We can go on and on with physical results. You've got to say no. And here's what I think you should do is put together something that just says, what are the things that are most important in my life? So, you've got a list of order of operations. Let's just say it's family, play, work, whatever the order of operations is, always check with that order of operations when you're saying yes. Are you saying yes at work and it always overlaps with family? Stop it. I mean, there's no other way to say it. But
Bob Newhart.
I know, just stop it. Like, we've gone through that a million times. But here's the reality. We have habits, and those habits are patterns that are built into our existence. And we just say yes. Why? Let's go to core roots. We could do like a coaching session right now. We say yes for validation. We say yes because somebody else always told us no. Whatever trauma it is that plugged into us that makes us say yes, at some point realize that is a response and not a choice. And you're full of shit. And I'm speaking to me. I'm looking at myself in this mirror right there going, yeah, you're so full of shit. So I would really, I would get with a coach. I would get with yourself, but really take a look at, are you prioritizing you first? Because when you do that, the amazing thing is when you say yes for the right things and no for the right things, somehow more time frees up, because we all know when we say yes to the wrong things, then we're tired. We didn't get enough sleep. Then we messed up something else. It flows over and then we're a total mess. And we all know how this looks. So join me in not being full of shit and saying no.
Well, I mean, and thank you for being honest, Scott. I mean, I mean, who isn't really a people pleaser except for the assholes out there? And I doubt if there any of those people are listening to this podcast, but yeah, it's true. It's about that awareness. And like you said, I ask people all the time, like, who do you love the most? And I found this out during COVID, and I told you about this, but I said, who do you love the most? 99% of everybody who answers that question says somebody else. Nobody ever says, I love myself. I love myself most. Because what? We think it's selfish. We think it's egotistical. It's vain. It's all those different things. And it's true. Like, if we're not taking care of ourselves, if we sit there and say, okay, I love this person on a scale of 1 to 10, I love this person a 10, but yet I'm taking care of myself at a 4 or a 5, then am I really giving that person a 10? And so when we realize it's not being selfish to have those boundaries in place, and that's what we're talking about here, there's a boundary in place. Does this align with my top 5 values? And this is what I teach people, is like the questions that you ask yourself in those moments. I'd love to say yes to this. However, is there some way we can find a mutual compromise that doesn't involve me doing 90% of the work? Is there an opportunity here for me to share in the responsibility with you? Okay, well, what does that look like? Let's brainstorm some ideas. So oftentimes we just say yes, and then we thought, oh, I guess I'll figure it out. And then we push ourselves into those stress situations, like you said before, and then we screw stuff up that's really important to us. And chances are we get the thing that we didn't really want to do, we get that good. And so I think it's really about having the boundaries in place and asking ourselves, what's the priority in this moment? What's this priority in my life? Is the priority in my life accumulation, or is the priority in my life preservation? And if I'm looking at accumulation, but I'm not looking at preservation, okay, how important is for me to be here to walk my daughter down the aisle? How important is it for me to be here to make sure my kids get through school? How important is it for me to live a long, healthy life and not be a burden to my kids or the people that I love the most? And so sometimes we have to make those sacrificing questions and realize that we go through seasons of our life. My question to you, Scott, is thinking about this for the people who out there are like myself and like you. We're defined by being go-getters. We're defined by what we accomplish, and we want to go out there and we want to make a big difference. How do we reprioritize ourselves and be able to slow down and take more of a break for ourselves without losing that edge to accomplish? Because what I'm finding out in my experience, and I'll share with everybody, and I've been sharing on the show a lot lately, is I've gotten to a point where I don't identify the same passion and the same accomplishment with coaching and speaking and podcasting as I used to. And it scares me because I am prioritizing myself. I am prioritizing being a dad over everything else. I'm looking, okay, is my priority being a dad for the next 10 years to my amazing son, or is my priority to grow this? And sometimes we think we could do both things, but oftentimes we can't. And so how do we retain our edge and our drive, but also relax on what our expectations of ourselves?
I'm going to put some science into this with AI and answer this in an interesting way, because I think for a long time, especially, and I'm just going to go from a man's perspective, women have different issues they deal with, but as a man, you're supposed to be a provider and a protector. So that kind of meant, as a kid, for me, a provider is somebody who's probably smart, somebody who has good grades so they can get a good job. A protector, you become really good at sports. You play basketball, football, maybe go boxing. So you're like a tough kid. So everybody looks at you like, oh, that's somebody I want. And if you're tall, you have an extra burden because everybody's like, you got to be an extra badass or be something. So because of that, your whole identity becomes built on more. Check this out. Look at me. And it's never going to end. It's never going to end, because the next accomplishment, it's like it's a look at me game, and it's bullshit. Here's the reality. AI is going to create this world of efficiency between robotics and automation and all these things, that almost everything is going to be done for us. Now, how do we divide and receive and make sure everybody's taken care of and everybody has an equal piece of the pie? That's to be seen. What I would be telling people to do is to be the best version of themselves, because in this awakened world that is morphing, to talk about when we're saying I am, well, what about we are? We are morphing into this very beautiful existence in time. So if I were to say to anybody, my daughter, I'd be saying the same thing. Stop putting so much stress on yourself to get good grades. If you lose one of the scholarships because you didn't do as well, don't worry about it. Just be a good friend, be a good person. And I just hear stress coming out of the kids because we taught them all this bullshit. And here's all they need to do. Be the best version of yourself. And when you say love yourself first, it's not egoic. Love your heart. And if you love your heart, Your heart will release your organic brilliance. Maybe today your brilliance seems to be something science-based, but it seems to be something healing or something supportive in a teaching role. Allow your brilliance to unfold and just follow that flow. And that flow might make you a certain amount of money, might make you a certain amount of something. We don't know why we were plugged into this planet definitively, but it will appear to us if we become the best person we're supposed to be. So maybe the reason I was supposed to be here is to support you in something. Maybe it's somebody else. Maybe it could be one-dimensional. It could be huge. It could be I've helped many people. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to dive deeply into my heart, fall in love with myself, and share that self with other people. And that's what I would beg people to do. And then I know you're going to come with a question, or somebody's going to say, how do I pay the bills? You make it sound so easy. It's so kumbaya.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the next question, and here's my answer to that. I live in Austin, Texas. It's expensive as hell. I mean, I get it. There's days where I'm like, what am I talking about? But it always seems to work out for me. And so I think if you truly commit 100% to loving yourself and trust that the divine put you here for a reason, you will be more than okay. But if you're halfway there, like anything else, imagine you're halfway in the boat and the boat takes off. What happens? You fall in the water and then say the boat, it didn't work. But if you get in the boat 100%, you just take off with the boat. Get in the boat 100%. Otherwise, you're going to fall in the water. And that's what's happening to many of us. And then they're saying it was the boat's problem. No, you just didn't get all the way in. Get all the way into your brilliance. And I know it sounds fluffy, but I'm telling you, I preach this and teach this to my students, my coaching clients, and every single one of them comes out and goes, holy shit, you were right. Like nobody's come back who's done the work who said you're wrong, ever.
It's so
Pretty
true. And I always go back to the book, one of the most famous books, Think and Grow Rich. And I think about the title, and I think about, like, people say, why is that book so important? I'm like, just because in the title, it talks about thinking. It talks about pausing. It talks about taking a step back. And that's where I feel I'm at in my life, is that I'm being forced to recognize that what inspired me and what drove me before is still important. I'm not saying it's not important, but there's this shift in my awareness at being 56 years old as opposed to being 36 years old, where the priorities have changed and the realizations have changed, that even though I can accomplish all these things and I can get all these egoic validations and all these marks and downloads and victories and all these different things, at the end of the day, what is the true legacy and what's the true impact that I'm leaving? And what are the lessons that I am choosing to learn for myself, as opposed to always teaching everybody else? What do I need to learn? What do I need to shut up and listen? What things are knocking on my door? And I believe that's one of the things that is part of all of our journeys, but it's the awareness to be able to stop and to slow down and not feel guilty. Right. I talk to so many people and they say, Chris, I get it. I need to slow down. I need to pay attention to what's happening, but I feel guilty if I let off the gas pedal. I feel guilty if I stop this business that I told everybody I was going to start because I had this thing called sunk cost bias. Right. What do we do in those moments where we sit there and we give ourselves the excuse, I've got so much invested, I've already done all this, I've already put in all this work, but I no longer fires me up? How do we justify letting that go without feeling guilt or shame?
I mean, you just talked about sunk costs. We could do a whole business lesson, but I think more importantly, talk about the idea that the story starts now. So everything that you've done, you hear it all the time. The time is now, the present moment is everything. The gift is the present. Like, here we are. For me to sit here and say, oh, well, I spent all this money on Go Love Now, that has to be everything. What if somebody comes to me today and says, would you like to be part of an organization? You take the principles of Go Love Now, work with me, and we can touch more lives. And it resonates in my heart. It's going ding, 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 ding. And I'm like, yes. Am I going to go, no, I can't because I have Go Love Now? I already know my answer. My answer is I'll put this to bed in some capacity or hand it off, or I'll do whatever I have to do with it. But I'm going to move in the direction that spirit, creator, universe pulls me in each time, every time. And it's kind of like the thing of teaching. Like right now I'm teaching, and every single year I say, this might be the last year I'm teaching, because there's always something that's working, but it's not perfect. And then one student says, hey, will you come back? That was an amazing class and changed my life. I'm like, okay. And so I'm being dictated by the universe. And how am I doing that? I fell in love with myself, not egoically. I fell in love with my heart. My heart is connected to the universe, the divine creator, and I'm using my brilliance. And if my brilliance in the present moment is to teach college kids to be ethical business leaders, then I'm going to continue with that. And if somebody calls me tomorrow and says, would you like to help start this new corporation? We're going to have 500 employees and we wanted to help you manage. Maybe that's what I'm doing tomorrow. And I'm very open to the universe dictating the how, because I know my why. And we could have a whole conversation on that too. But hopefully everybody here gets what I just said. If you have your why, your purpose, your mission in place, and you have a vision, that vision is the trajectory for your success, the universe will dictate the how. So within my vision, I don't say I'm a professor, I'm a business owner, I'm this and that. I am a divine creator. Plug me in where you will. End of story.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
And I love that point, Scott, because so oftentimes we choose to ignore those indications because it's not comfortable. It's not where we've been. It's not who we are. And that familiarity causes that angst and it causes that fear. And then we go into that negative self-talk, like I'm not worthy, right? Oftentimes we don't accept the fruits of our labor because we don't feel like we've deserved it. We haven't earned it yet. Oh, I still need to grind. I still need to do these things. I still have 17 things left on my to-do list. But that's the beauty, which you're talking about, Scott, is being flexible, right? I think about my life and I think about my journey, and had I not been flexible or accommodating or curious about certain junctures in my life where I wanted to go left and God, source, universe said you're going to go right, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, because I would have fought all those different junctures. But when we sit there and we take a step back and go, okay, if I'm supposed to be curious, right? We were born as kids. We're born curious. We're born adventurous. We're born playful. But what happens? Like the grownups in our life tell us to grow up and act normal and get your head out of the clouds and be realistic and stop daydreaming and all those different things. But ultimately, if we can get back to a place in our life where we recognize that that's the joy of life. The joy is in being able to be present. The joy is being able to say, wow, I didn't expect to do that, but I think I'm going to go try that. Right. Mm-hmm. And I see so many people fighting it, but then ultimately getting to a place of lack of a fulfillment. Like, Chris, I'm not fulfilled. I'm like, do you still get joy out of what it is that you're doing? Yeah, sort of. Have you thought about doing anything else? No. Why? Oh, because I'm really good at this. I'm like, well, what did it take for you to get really good at that? It took you years of experience because you were curious and you started the journey without any expectation of what the result was going to be. Right? How do we get back to that, Scott? Because so oftentimes we pollute our mind with what should be, what's right, and what's fair, and what's this and what's that. How can we get back to a place of more playfulness and curiosity, and have that sense of enjoyment about our life as opposed to apprehension and fear?
I would start with 2 I am statements, and you said one of them. I would put right on your refrigerator, right on your cell phone, I am curious, I'm filled with wonderment. Because when you're filled with wonderment, you're curious, you're going to take, I'll give you an example. You know me, you know I love basketball. You know if I could still play football, I'd play football. Like, I just always want to be playing a sport.
Yeah.
Basketball hurts me a lot. I'm 54. I still want to play like I'm 20. And so we went and bought electric bikes. So now I'm doing some kind of cross training. I'm doing a little bit more yoga, yin yoga. Like, I'm doing things to cross train to prolong my life. So there's a bunch of things. It's a response to my environment. This curiosity, could this be fun too? Because at first I'd say that's not fun. There's no place to throw an alley-oop. There's no one cutting back door. Like, it's a bike. Right. And you start riding the bike. You're like, this is really fun. Like, I really like this. I'm out in the trails, whatever. So you've got to put yourself out there, be curious, come back to a space like, holy cow, I get to ride a bike through the woods. This is amazing. Fall in love with that. And now I have multiple joys. I can play basketball. I can do yoga. I can ride bikes. And I don't want to admit this live, but I'll probably get sucked into pickleball too, because everybody's doing it. That's just so not me.
Somebody just asked me the other day if I've tried it, and I'm like, nah. I said it's like golf. I don't think I'm old enough yet.
Everybody, dude. I know it's not a comment I usually make. Everyone's doing it, so I will. It's the basketball court's right next to it. It's like, why don't I just do both? I can just cross train. And one day I do one day I do the other. But it's just so hard for me to do it because I haven't bought in yet, to your point. But I'm not filled with wonderment with it yet, and I'm not curious enough yet.
Mm-hmm.
So my answer,
you haven't reached that leverage point, right?
yeah, my answer is fall in love with play again. Fall in love with play. Be curious, be filled with wonderment, and fall in love with play. Like, uh, what's the word? Maturity certainly has nothing to do with being boring. It has to do with being wise enough to know you can still be a child and an adult morphed into one being. I mean, I'm sure Serena, if she's still on, is laughing because, she's somebody who acts like she's 5, like, I was hanging out with her and we're just acting like little kids, just being stupid. And that's what you should be doing. You should just be childlike, but still at the same time be a full grown adult. So.
Mm-hmm. I believe that as well. I mean, I have an 8-year-old son, that. And I sit there and ask myself, am I being the 8-year-old kid in myself that my son would want me to be? Or am I being the playful dad that I'd want to be? So oftentimes we're in our head. I remember one time I was at the beach, and this was a very poignant moment where my son was trying to get me to play in the sand. And I'm like, for whatever reason, I like the beach, but I don't like sand. It's all dirty and I don't want to get sand in my places and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. All these just stupid things. And I sat there and I watched my son playing in the sand. I'm like, he doesn't fucking care if he gets sand in his mouth or sand in his ear or sand in his mouth or his hair, whatever. And so I got down and I got in the sand and I watched his facial expression go from being, okay, like dad's playing with me, we're here at the beach and we're having a good time, to being really ecstatic about dad playing. And I just had to change my perspective about everything and sit there and go, Chris, he's only going to be this age once. He's going to have the sense of playfulness, but maybe this moment might carry with him for the rest of his life to think, hey, I'm going to be like my dad and be playful. Maybe when I don't think that I should, or I want to, or anything like that. So I think sometimes it's just, we have to push ourselves into those situations. We have to push ourselves into places where we're not comfortable, because those moments might bring about some sort of curiosity or might bring about some sort of perspective shift that we did not plan. And those are some of the beautiful things that happen in life when they're least expected, but we got to put ourselves out there. But so oftentimes we talk ourselves out of doing things before we even get a chance to do them.
True.
And we sit there and we go on those limiting beliefs. Oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm too old. I'm too this. I'm too this. How can we help people change the way they talk to themselves? Right? What are some simple things? I tell people, eliminate the words always and never. Like always and never, and insert perhaps. Like those are some simple things that people can do and realize that you don't always screw things up and that you're never going to find a mate. You got to do some things that are maybe perhaps a little bit different, but what can we do to change people's negative self-talk about themselves?
That's a beautiful question. And it's such a like deeply layered question, because again, like you can already see the answers coming. Like you're going to say something like, oh, you shouldn't have negative self-talk. And somebody's going to say, well, you're a better athlete than me, or you're prettier than me, or you're smarter than me. And then they back in and like, I'll never be anything like you. So with that said, listen to the commonality and everything that I just said, because that's usually the first answer here. Don't compare yourself. Like, here's something that I would ask everybody to wrap your head around. This world is an expansion of source, God, creator, universe. Okay. So we're all fractals of the divine. So if you believe in God, universe, whatever, we're children of God, we're fractals of God, we're an expansion of God. So God's not going to make shit. He's not going to put one piece here that's just shit. And then the next argument usually comes back, well, what about Hitler? What about these bad people? Well, they made choices. They started like all of us, and they made choices to get to that. So here you are right now. Maybe your choices weren't perfect. Maybe you don't feel like the perfect human being. What did Chris and I say 50 times throughout this conversation? The story starts now. So I would ask you to think, have I fallen in love with myself enough to allow the divine brilliance to come out so I can share it with the world? Because that's what I'm supposed to be doing while I'm here. And I think that's the answer. Now, is that going to be easy? So right now you've been saying, I suck, I'm a piece of shit, I do all these things wrong. And I'm telling you to say, love yourself, find your brilliance and share it. Right. What are the processes to get there? Go to places like Insight Timer and look for inner critic meditations. Find ones that are in theta that can start reprogramming your subconscious mind to help you start breaking that stuff down. But really say to yourself, I love you. One of the things that, Chris and I do for coaching is I have people write a love letter and read it to themselves in the mirror. And it's amazing the different things that start coming back from people. And there's a process to doing it. But somebody saying, So I looked in the mirror the first day and I read it and it was nothing. The second day I just started bawling and I just couldn't take it anymore. We have so much layers between us and our true self, and we need to remove those layers and integrate it. You're a beautiful divine spirit, end of story. You've got some amazing brilliance you're supposed to be sharing and connecting with others here on this planet. And if you don't choose to find that and share it, then you missed your purpose. That's it.
And you're robbing other people of your gifts. I mean, if you're not sharing your gifts, you're robbing people of that experience to feel the full you, right? You're denying people that opportunity. And I think that's a horrible thing to really consider and to think about, because ultimately at the end of the day, like, we're on this growth path. And for people who've never seen it, watch The Hero's Journey, the Joseph Campbell story on YouTube. It's like an hour and 20 minutes, and it talks about the trials and tribulations that we go through when we grow through. But the opportunity, I think, Scott, and I was just telling somebody this the other day, I said they were having a problem with their negative self-talk and their image. And, well, I've done this and I've done this and I've done this. And they have all this validation and proof of why they suck. And I said, who is somebody in your life that thinks you are the cat's meow? Who is the person in your life that really thinks you've got it together and who sees you as someone different than you see yourself? And they said, oh, it's my aunt. I'm like, well, how does your aunt see you? Oh, my aunt sees me as this, and my aunt sees me as this. And she finds all these beautiful things to find out about me, but I just don't see it. And I'm like, what would life look like if you just started adopting 50% of what your aunt believes in you? If you started adopting that belief for yourself? Do you think your aunt's a pretty intelligent person? Yeah, absolutely. I love my aunt. I respect her, all these different things. And I'm like, could she be right about you? Yeah. And I just get the person to start saying yes and just seeing the plausibility. I'm like, how much would your life be different if you adopted what your aunt believed about you? What would be a few things that you might be able to accomplish if you had that sense of confidence that she believes in you? Well, I think I'd probably be able to do this, and I think I'd be able to do this. I'm like, okay, what do those first steps look like? What are just the first steps of those things look like? And I'm like, okay, go do those in the next 2 weeks. Go do those in the next 2 weeks and come back and tell me about it. And then oftentimes, Scott, what they find out is like, oh my God, I wish I would have done it sooner. Oh my God, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was. Oh my God, it was pretty easy. Oh my God, I just had to put one foot in front of the other. And that's what we're telling everybody listening to this tonight, is that you got to see yourself where you're at now. And I love that you've been saying that, Scott, because it's so important. Like, here's where we're at today. We're listening to this conversation. We're having this conversation. You and I are going to take things from this conversation after we're done with it and go, you know what? I need to do more of that. I need to do more of that. Absolutely. Because that's consciously, the people that we are. What are maybe a couple of questions that people can ask themselves? We've identified a couple of them tonight, but what are some specific questions that you have your clients ask themselves, or perhaps that you ask yourself in those moments that maybe provide the most opportunity for growth? Like for me, it's, what am I supposed to be learning right now? If I ask myself that question and I'm honest with myself in that question, and I say, I'm probably supposed to be learning patience. I'm probably supposed to be learning that you got to spend a lot of money just to keep things the same. Maybe I'm supposed to be learning, and I just stop and I think about, like, okay, once I learn that lesson, maybe I don't have to experience these challenges anymore. So what are some questions we can ask some people, or they can ask themselves?
Yeah, the first two are pretty simple, and I know you'll agree. It's, do you want to change, and are you willing to do the work to change? And maybe even replace the word change, because changes could go in any direction. Do you want to grow? Are you willing to grow?
Yeah.
Because grow means you got to shed some of the bullshit. And then from there, what's that?
I can see people saying, well, I sort of want to grow.
Of course. And then you got to isolate, because this is what people will start doing, is they're going to find an area that's easy, low hanging fruit. I started drinking more water and I feel a little better because it was easy. So what you got to do is then say which areas you want to grow. So if somebody says, I want to get healthier, what does health mean to you? Is it about longevity? Is it about looks? Is it about playing with your kids when you're old? Like, what is it? And so you got to define it. And then when they take an action, did that help you get there? Or were you just going to low hanging fruit? Because, I mean, here's what I'll do at first when I talk about health. I'll cut out a little bit of crappy food. I'll have a few more protein shakes. I'll spend a little more time in the basketball court because it's easy. I'm acting like I'm a superhero. And then all of a sudden I start to look a little better and I'm like, oh, cool. And then I go back to all my bullshit. And because it's easy. So what do you really want? Because I already know, like, my health, like, to use me as an example, for a long time, it was all about aesthetics. So I still have to have abs. I got to be ripped. I got to, look good. I got to look as good as the 20-something-year-olds. And then I was like, if I put in a certain amount of effort I'm doing pretty damn good. I can play basketball. It's not killing me. It's giving me the longevity. And I know if I ever really wanted to get ripped again, I could put this effort and this is how far away I am. So I stayed at that baseline, but I never went to a different point. So I'm pretty consistent. But lately, to cut out my bullshit, my growth is I was like, you know what? I'm going to have some free time because Kayla's going out to school. And is it egoic or is it about like, hey, you know, I could just really live a healthier life? Maybe I want to go mountain biking a little harder. Maybe I want to jump a little higher. Maybe I want to just feel my body like a youthful person. And I want to put on some more muscle mass. So I'm actually going to put a little more effort in to get ripped again, but not to say, look, I'm ripped. It's more of I want to do it because I have the time, and I want to integrate mind, body, and spirit. And I think I've been lacking on the body. So that would be what I'd get a client to isolate. And then I'd say, what are we going to do about it? And then I'd make sure that we have a plan. And I'm going to say, is this going to inhibit you from being the spiritual growth person you want to be and, you know, other parts of your body? And if it's not, I mean, in your life, and as long as it's not, let's integrate and implement this. So.
I love that. And what you're essentially talking about here and what you're an expert at is love, right? We bring love into our lives. We bring love for ourselves. We bring love for the journey, for the process. We bring love for the good times. We bring love for the challenging times. I don't call them bad times. I call them challenging times. We bring more love and we have more joy and we have more curiosity and more play, then chances are we're going to be a little bit happier. We're going to be a little bit more alive when we wake up in the morning and we start asking ourselves those questions, Scott, and we start pausing to really think about those situations. We start examining the people that we have in our life, and we start examining the things that we say we have to do, and we start looking forward to some things on our calendar. Chances are we're going to be a little bit happier, and chances are we're going to be a little bit more impactful for the people around us and a little bit more understanding, a little bit more patient, a little bit happier. Chances are we're going to want to contribute a little bit more to society and ultimately live a life that we're proud of. Right. I mean, ultimately, when we get out of this experience is what we put into it. And at any phase of our life, we can choose to get excited and to get a rebirth, if you will, at this phase of our life, or we can choose to become stagnant and complacent and bitching and moaning and blame everybody else. But ultimately, we're going to end the same way. So it's about the choices that we make today and the investments that we make in today in ourselves by having the right people in our life. Talk to us about that. Talk to us about some of the success stories you've had in your coaching career of people potentially who have been experiencing the same shit we've been talking about tonight. Talk to us about that transformation process for them and where they might be today, obviously without giving names.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of some of the, I like to go back to some of the far ones, but like some of the most recent ones, I've got a girl who's just been busting her ass. I mean, she's got 3 kids. The husband just left, or she kicked him out because of certain reasons. She's in her 20s. She's trying to go back to school. She's trying to work. She's selling plasma to pay the bills. I just crazy stuff. I mean, crazy stuff. But I always see her do what I share with her. She says like, hey, I'm struggling with this. Is there a meditation? And she does it and she goes, it worked this well. Is there anything else? But she does it. Like, so for me, she answered the second question, you know, are you willing to put in the work? And she does the work. And there's always an up leveling. You see it, and you see it fast. And again, we talked about slow down. She's in a space in her life where she's like, I'm in a hole. I want to get out of the hole. So she's in kind of one of those fast spaces. My recommendation for her would be, you don't have to rush, but I understand there's some sense of urgency, but don't burn yourself out so you can't function. And that's again, this is where we're going back to, I can't just be fluffy bullshit. I got to do something. And I love watching her integrate those things. And then the flip side of that, you know, I have somebody who is a CEO of an organization in Austin. She's just got, you know, hundreds of employees, maybe 1,000 employees. I'm not sure. She's, you know, doing extremely well in life. But what happens when you're doing that is you're doing so much that you have some blind spots. So what she did, I'll just tell you, like, well, there were multiple times where she said, holy shit, and she had an awakening moment. But one of my favorite ones was when we were doing the team exercise at the end, and we were talking about resiliency as actually a team sport. And she's like, I have all these friends. I have all these galas I go to. I have all these people who like me and I think I like. And I realized I only like 4 people. And I'm not saying I only like 4 people, but when you told me to create that team, I was able to plug in my people and realize I'm playing the game of life and I'm doing the things I need to do, but my priorities have been a little bit off because I'm getting yanked in different directions. So on paper, I look great, but I don't know that I was really being true to myself. Like she was saying all the shit that you're hoping someone says.
Yeah.
And at that moment, your heart gets big and you're like, this is why I do what I do. Because there's days, dude, where I'm like, I'm so tired of this shit. I'm sitting here busting ass. I'm helping people change their life. They didn't show up for a class. I'm calling them, following up with, like, I'm irritated. But when I see those kind of people, it makes me understand how good the process is that I'm sharing. And it makes me understand how important the work is. So imagine she goes back in and now she's more centered because she's taking care of those people on her team. And now the other team, those she's connecting with, she'll do it in a different way. She'll say no when she needs to say no. She'll say yes when she has the ability to say yes. But she's not going to be pulled by the outside team. She's going to be directed by her actual team. And that makes me feel good. Because if we all did that, the world's a more honest, beautiful place where we're deeply connected through love and not obligation. And I think a lot of us feel obligated versus in love with the fact that we're able to support and connect with one another. And they're 2 very different things.
Scott Goyette, ladies and gentlemen. Scott, I love talking to you, brother. I really do. I do. I know that between the both of us, when we have these conversations, we're talking to ourselves, but the people that are listening are always going to get tremendous value out of this because we're real and we're honest. And like you said tonight, like here's where I'm at. And I've said, here's where I'm at. I love the fact that, you know, when we get around the bright people in our life, like you and I have gotten around each other, we keep good people in our life. It's pretty incredible because iron sharpens iron. And so I encourage everybody who listens to this show, always get a coach, always have mentors. Talk to people about your coaching program and where people can learn more about you, Mr. Goyette.
You can go to scottgoyette.com. It's right there under Chris because he was kind of put that in there for me. And you can sign up. If you guys are low on cash, sometimes people want to do it, but the time's not right. I do offer a few partial scholarships each time we do it. I can already tell you what the results are. The results are more peace, more clarity, deeper connection to purpose, a more enlightened you. 99% of my clients come from somebody saw somebody who's in the program and said, what the hell are you doing? So it's like when Harry met Sally, they're like, what's she having? And so it's usually somebody saw the change in somebody else and said, I want to do it. So I don't really advertise. I just do that. And that's how I get it. So if you guys are interested, let me know. I can guarantee you'll have some good results. If you go to my Instagram, Scott Goyette Official, there's a whole bunch of testimonials on that little highlight link for testimonials. You can check those out. And they're always different people. That's the fun thing too. Like I could have an 18-year-old college kid. I could have a CEO. I could have a 6-year-old random wizard who just popped back into the world. Just the strangest people. And sometimes the people in the group end up being coaches themselves, which is the way it should be. All I am is a facilitator. The wisdom doesn't come from me. It comes from the collective of the group where I'll just organize and orchestrate it. And I'm very good at that. But some of the most beautiful comments come from the people themselves. And then the best practices being shared come from the group, which is, you know how it works, dude. It's beautiful to watch. So.
It is. Highly recommend Mr. Scott Goyette. For those of you guys who are listening, driving, listening to all the podcast, you guys can find this information in the show notes, scottgoyette.com, Goyette, scottgoyette.com. Dude, I appreciate you so much for taking the time to be on here on the show. We definitely got to do more unfiltered experiences because I dig the outcome of what it is that we do here. It's very unique. I listen to a lot of podcasts and I don't hear anybody like us. So thank you for being here with me. I'm going to put you backstage here for a second. If you need to run, I know you got to run. If not, I'll talk to you tomorrow. But if not, stick around and I'm just going to end off the show.
Let's do once a month. Let's commit right here. Let's do once a month. We'll do an unfiltered experience and we'll pick the topic of the month and we'll invite people to our group and our page and let them pick like what's itching them the most. And we'll talk about that.
Sounds good.
Sweet,
awesome, brother. I love you too. And there we have it. Another episode of the I almost said the unfiltered experience. There we go. God, old habits are coming back here, ladies and gentlemen. I haven't had a chance to pay attention to you guys in the comment section. We got Serena Buffalino in the house. Hi, she says, hi guys. Hi, Serena. Thank you so much for being here. I miss you, sweetie. We got to catch up. We got Dennis Nurmella from China. Thank you, Dennis. All the time you're always showing up here. Appreciate it. Dennis is going to be actually on the show here sometime in September. He's writing a book about living in China, his experiences living in China. So I said, hey, you want to come on the show and talk about that and talk about maybe what we don't know about living in China. I met Dennis here in the United States at a couple of events, positive motivation events, and we've kept in touch all these years. So thank you, Dennis, for being here and checking that out. Serena Buffalino says, yes. Appreciate that. We got Robert in here in the house. He says a friend's father died last year from a bladder infection. We won't tell Scott that. Serena says here, Serena gets me and Scott mixed up because she says, wow, Chris, that's wild. But I know she was talking about Scott. We're both good looking dudes, but I'm the one with the facial hair. What does it says here? We got Chris in the house. What's up, Chris Case? And we got Nicole Young in the house. What's up, Nicole? How are the kittens? Hooked on Humanity. We got Nelly in the house. She says, if we take care of what's within us first, I believe the universe will show us what is planned for us day to day and will show us how to incorporate that with what our personal goals are. Yes, Nelly, absolutely. It's so important. We just got to be aware. We got to be accepting of those messages and have that opportunity to be flexible, right? So oftentimes we're not flexible. So oftentimes we are striving for certainty that we don't accept uncertainty. And when we have uncertainty, that's when we get to flex our muscles and realize the skills that we have attained and acquired in our life. We get to put those to use. We got Chris Kaysen in the house. He says, right now, just figuring out life and this purpose. If I cannot figure out a purpose for my life, I will just focus on self improvement as that purpose until I find something else. That's a great way of looking at it, Chris. I mean, ultimately, when you look at your purpose, you sit there and figure out, okay, what are your gifts? Like, ask yourself, what are your God created gifts? What are your opportunities that you're here to share with people? And then explore that, right? Another way of doing it is looking at it and writing your eulogy. Scott and I talk about this all the time. Like, if you think about the end in mind and you think about what is it that I want to be remembered for? Who do I want to be remembered for? Okay, I want to be remembered for being a giving person, a caring person, a kind person, a person who contributed to make problems better. Okay, so that's great. So what are a couple of things that I can do today in order to fulfill that legacy? Right. So when I think about today, what are a couple of things I can do today? I can go out and give 50 cents to a homeless person. I can go buy somebody a sandwich. I can go listen to somebody talk about their situations and their problems. I could go volunteer at a community center. I could do all these different things. I can say hi to somebody on the street. What is it that I can do that will allow me to contribute my gifts? And then as you start doing that, and you start realizing, you start finding your wheelhouse. And I've seen so many people do it, whether they're doing tarot card readings, they're doing car washing, they're making sourdough bread, whatever it is that might be that you can do. If you can make sourdough bread and go give it to old people at an old folks home and make their life better and create custom breads and do that, hey, why not? My wife does it. She found her kind of gift. And so being able to do that. Mark Gassard in the house with Mr. Peachtree, Georgia, says, two tremendous mindset masters. Looking good, gentlemen. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you so much. We got Michael Baker in the house. He says, forgiveness starts with you. Journaling helps. Forgiveness starts with understanding, right? We talk about seek first to understand, then to be understood. All right, let's make it a point to do that, Michael Baker. I appreciate that, and we got to be forgiving for ourselves. We have to have empathy and understanding for the people that we used to be, we did not know what we know now. And so that's an opportunity for us to look back in retrospect and give a little love and give a little grace to the people, little boys and girls inside of us that maybe didn't know any better when we were in our 20s and 30s and screwed up a relationship or screwed up a job or screwed up a business opportunity. Have some compassion. Right, Michael Baker, I appreciate that. Mark Gasser says he shared the program. If you guys got value out of this, please share it out. Share it on your social media and say, hey, man, I listened to these two cats and they were pretty wise gentlemen and they got me to think about this, and share this out so that way we can make a difference in this world, because that's the whole part of my why, is that I will fight for what's rare, fight for what's right and what's where. Fuck me. fight for what's right and what's fair, risk for which that matter, and leave the earth a better place for who I was and what I did. Yes, I can speak to that. Michael Baker says here, he goes, are you running from your intelligence or your emotions? That's very important, right? Take a look at your emotions. What is it that you're feeling? Journal those things out, and don't give yourself shit for having feelings. Explore what those are, right? Scott talked about that. Sometimes we compare ourselves to other people, and then we have these feelings of inadequacy, or these feelings of what did I do to fail, or what did I do to screw up, or how come I don't have what those other people have? Don't look at it in terms of that. Look at it in terms of what has that person done? What sacrifices did that person make? What fears did that person overcome? What questions did that person have to ask himself or herself? What favors did that person have to ask for? What advice did that person have to ask for? Put yourself in that place and start taking those actions, because you can live vicariously through other people and their successes. Serena says, happy people want a happy world. Yes. So if you're not happy, maybe take a look at that and say, like Scott said, the simplest questions can have the most profound effect. Am I happy in my life? Yes or no? No, I'm not happy in my life. Okay, what's the one area of my life by which focusing on I can yield some results? And oftentimes that's our health. We don't feel good. So we don't act good. So we don't treat other people right. And so we live miserably, and we hope, wish, and pray that someday something will change. But I could tell you guys, as somebody who has gone through a battery of blood tests, and it just had a upper endoscopy and a lower colonoscopy last week, and getting all these different things done, you have to take an active role in your health, and you have to go out there and you have to find the answers. And then you have to take action on what it is that perhaps you may have not been doing in your life. So you should be feeling like shit, because when you start to feel better, then you start to do better. You start to think better. And guess what? The world starts to become a better place. Robert says, thank you both. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate you. Nelly says here, always time well spent when listening to you guys. Thank you. And be sure to check out The Unfiltered Experience, www.theunfilteredexperience.com. It's still a podcast. It's still out there. It's got amazing episodes. We had some phenomenal guests, a lot of breakthroughs on that show, opportunities for people who are listening and also participating in the show. So we will be back here next week, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, on the video cast, so you guys can come here and engage with me like I just did with all these beautiful people here. And feel free to share this out and let me know what topics you would like for me to do here on the Raw Unscripted show, and we'll make that happen. And we're ebbing back into having more guests. So if there's somebody that you've heard on another podcast, or somebody you know in your life that's an expert, that has an amazing story, that can share value and what we can do to change our mindset and our confidence and our outcomes and our impact on the world, send them my way. info@noexcusescoach.com, info@noexcusescoach.com. Let us know, and we will make them a guest on the show, and we will continue to impact your life. Michael Baker says here, presence and presentation, impact and influence. Presence and presentation, impact and influence. Yes, that's a lot of words right there, Mr. Michael Baker. So I'm going to go and have my influence with my family, enjoy some dinner, enjoy some downtime, and think about what it is that I can do possibly to help you make this world a better place. So together we can lift each other up in love, not fear, not hate, not dividedness. Let's all be a part of the solution rather than part of the problem. I love you guys. We'll see you next week on the Raw Unscripted show.